Okay, so our book today is Knut, How One Little Polar Bear Captivated the World, told by Juliana, Isabella, and Craig Hatkoff and Dr. Gerald R. Ulick, and it is published by the Scholastic Press in New York. All right, let's read about Knut. One December afternoon, in a cozy, dark enclosure in a zoo in Berlin, Germany, a polar bear cub was born. He was so small that a child could easily have cradled him. His eyes were closed tight, and his pink skin showed through his fine, white fur. He was just a tiny polar bear cub, but he would soon be loved by millions of people around the world. His name is Knut, and this is his story. Isn't he cute? Knut, pronounced K-Newt, was born on December 5th, 2006 at Zoo Berlin, one of the world's largest and most respected zoos. Thomas Dorflein, the chief bear keeper, and Andre Schul, one of the veterinarians, were on hand when Knut's mother, Tosca, gave birth to two healthy cub brothers. But Thomas and Andre were anxious. Wild animal mothers don't always know how to take care of their babies. If Tosca wasn't able to be the cub's mother, Thomas and Andre would have to try to hand raise them. Thomas and Andre watched Tosca carefully, but she showed little interest in the cubs. So after 5 hours, Thomas carefully gathered them up and rushed them to the small room that would be their very first home. The cubs were placed in an incubator, which is a small, heated bed. As they hungrily drank their first meal from baby bottles, a new life began for Thomas. He was to devote the next few months to being an around-the-clock foster father. Would you guys like to be a father? A foster father is like a stand-in father in case the real father can't be there. The cubs were not given names at first because it is not unusual for newborn animals to survive only a few days. And unfortunately, on the fourth day, one of the cubs suddenly developed a high fever. Within a few hours, he died. It was a very sad loss, but Thomas and Andre knew that they had done all they could. Now they focused their care on the remaining baby. Andre checked on the cub several times a day, but it was Thomas who saw to the cub's every need. The cub could drink only about 4 tablespoons of formula milk at a time. After just 2 hours, he would yelp in hunger again. Oh, I'm hungry. Do we say that sometimes when we're hungry? We yelp. Day and night, Thomas would boil water, mix the formula, and give the cub his bottle and settle him back down in the incubator. He also had to clean the cub's bedding and sterilize the bottles. Thomas napped when he could. It was an exhausting routine, but Thomas was determined to give this cub the best possible chance at survival. He even moved a bed and sleeping bag into the cub's room so that he would always be nearby. It says mother polar bears groom and nuzzle their cubs a lot, and Thomas was happy to stroke and comfort Knut all that he needed. Oh, he's so cute. Week after week, the cub's fur grew in more thickly, his tummy got plumper, and his body got stronger. With his bright black eyes, he looked around at everything. Until the cub was 4 weeks old, Thomas continued to feed him every 2 hours. He also bathed him, brushed him, and rubbed him with baby oil each day. He even played Elvis songs on the guitar for him. Thomas was very, very tired from the endless work, but he came to love the cub as if he were his own baby, and the cub thrived. He looks pretty happy, doesn't he? The tiny bear became the center of Thomas's life, but he missed his own family at home. His partner Daniela and their 5-year-old son Sylvester. They missed him too, but they felt very proud of him. They visited Thomas every day, and on Christmas Eve they arrived with a special dinner, presents, and even a beautifully decorated tree. Their love helped to keep Thomas's spirits up. Finally, when the cub was 32 days old, Thomas decided it was time to give him a permanent name. To Thomas, the cub looked just like a Knut, and so Knut it was. Thomas and Andre used their expert knowledge about polar bears to take good care of Knut. When Knut outgrew his incubator, they built a wooden sleeping box for him that was the same size as a mother bear's den, about as big as a very large toy chest. They kept the room dark and warm since polar bear cubs don't leave their den and don't experience bright light or cold until they are almost 3 months old. And because mother bears stay by their cub's side until that age, Thomas stayed with Knut almost every moment. In fact, Thomas only left the zoo for the first time when Knut was 4 months old, and then just for 3 days. Meanwhile, Knut had already had thousands of friends outside the zoo. The people of Berlin and soon all of Germany fell in love with extra baby Knut and his foster father, Thomas. They were eager to visit Knut at the zoo, but his keepers felt that Knut was still too young to appear in public. And look, he was a baby. He needed stuffed animals that would be like his mom to help him feel comfortable. By the time Knut was ready to move to his sleeping box, he was strong enough to pull himself along with his front legs. He already loved to tussle with his stuffed animals or blanket. A month later, he took his first wobbly steps on all 4 paws. A week after that, he had his first meal of milk with a bit of kitten food mixed in from a bowl. Thomas and Andre laughed as most of the food ended up on Knut's fur and the floor, and very little ended up inside Knut. But he certainly enjoyed it. After that, Knut had his first bath in a small tub. He enjoyed that, too. For Knut, every activity is a chance to wrestle, pounce, and play. Look at him eating his first food all by himself that wasn't in a bottle. So cute. On a warm day in March when Knut was 3 months old, Thomas led him outdoors for the first time. Knut excitedly explored every corner of the small play area, but he never strayed far from Thomas. In the sandbox, Knut made 2 discoveries. One, that sand is not good to eat. And 2, that sand is great fun to roll around in. When he shook out his fur, sand flew everywhere. And there's a picture of him playing. If I can show you. I don't seem to be able to move that for some reason. There we go. Look at him. So cute. Oh. For Thomas, raising Knut had been very rewarding, but it isn't always easy. One night, Knut climbed out of his sleeping box and awoke Thomas by pouncing on his head. It was the first time that Knut had climbed out on his own. After that, Thomas made sure to close the sleeping box at night. Knut sometimes shows his affection for Thomas by pulling hard on his hair. Thomas lets Knut know that he prefers when Knut licks his face or nuzzles with him nose to nose in a friendly polar bear style greeting. Let's try that. Hello. Finally, the keepers decided that Knut was strong and healthy enough to be viewed by zoo visitors. They announced that on March 23rd, Knut and Thomas would appear in public for 2 hours. Then, a week before the big day, a newspaper reported one man's comments that Knut should not have been rescued after his mother rejected him, because in the wild, a cub would not have been rescued. Ugh. Knut's fans were shocked. People all over Germany spoke up in support. Spoke up in support of Knut, Thomas, and Zoo Berlin. News of the man's statement and the public's strong reaction against it quickly spread around the world. Suddenly, Knut was an international celebrity. That means all over the world people knew about him. Thousands of Knut admirers streamed into the zoo on the morning of March 23rd. Almost 500 journalists, including camera crews from 100 television stations, arrived to report on Knut's first public appearance. There were reporters and visitors from places as far away as Canada, Colombia, Pakistan, Japan, and New Zealand. And when Thomas and Knut stepped out into the enclosure, the crowd cheered as if they were movie stars. For Thomas, who was still rather shy, all this fame was quite surprising, but he did his best to give all his attention to Knut, and all Knut wanted to do was play. So with Knut's favorite green blanket, Thomas and Knut played tug of war. So cute. Then Knut clambered on the rocks and wrestled with his ball. He charmed everyone. Day after day, huge crowds came to admire Knut as he played with his keepers and his sticks, balls, and teddy bears. As people's love for Knut grew, many thought about Knut's polar bear cousins in the wild. With temperatures rising around the globe, icy regions where polar bears live are shrinking. Some scientists even believe that polar bears could become extinct during our lifetime. Do you know what that means? It means they might not be alive anymore. Many of Knut's new friends realized that the world might lose what the world might lose, and started to ask what they could do to help. With his cute waddle and playful spirit, it was hard not to love Knut. He received as many as 200 letters each week. People of all ages sent poems and other words of friendship. Children who were too young to write drew pictures for Knut. Everyone wanted Knut to know how happy he made them feel. One day, visitors worried when rather than playing, Knut lay on the ground, holding his paws over his eyes or on his swollen cheek. Over the next few days, Knut and Thomas didn't make their usual public appearances. Was Knut sick? It turned out that because Knut's permanent teeth were coming in, his mouth was sore. Thomas helped Knut feel better by rubbing his gums and by letting Knut cuddle with him when he slept. Before long, Knut was back, lively and full of fun as ever. Oh, it's so cute. Look at them having a polar bear kiss. It's so cute. Thomas's favorite times with Knut happen away from the crowds. Every morning before the zoo opens, Thomas leads Knut on a walk through the zoo grounds. It was during these early morning walks that Thomas gave Knut his first swimming lessons. Knut already enjoyed wading in shallow water, but when Thomas dove into deep water and called for Knut to follow him, Knut hesitated. It's hard to learn how to swim. It's a little bit scary, isn't it? Thomas patiently encouraged him until Knut finally jumped in. Before long, Knut was swimming around in polar bear fashion, paddling with his front legs and using his back legs to steer. Just as a bear mother would, Thomas makes sure that Knut's boisterous energy doesn't get out of hand. If Knut grows impatient before a feeding and starts to nip, Thomas will warn him, 9, 9, which means no, until Knut stops. Usually, Knut listens well. When Thomas calls, Knut, come, Knut always comes running. Oh, so cute. Every day, Knut is growing bigger and stronger. By the time Knut is a year old, he will be so big that he could hurt Thomas without meaning to. It might not be safe for them to play. Thomas and Knut will be together as long as they can, and no matter what, Thomas will stay closely involved in Knut's care until Knut is ready to be independent. Adult polar bears spend most of their time alone, so Knut won't be lonely if it happens that Thomas can no longer be with him every day. And Knut will always be very special to Thomas. Look at Knut playing with that shoe. That's so cute. Oh, it looks like he's waving. Hello. Oh. Hello. Hello. Hi, Knut. And that's the story of Knut, who survived and thrived because of the love and care of his foster father, Thomas, and the support of Zoo Berlin. Knut has brought joy to millions around the world, but more importantly, he has reminded us that one small creature can make a big difference. Knut may be just a tiny polar bear cub, but he inspires us to do everything we can to help polar bears in the wild. Together, we can take small actions that will lead to big change. If we all do our part to save the polar bear's natural habitat and all natural habitats, we will give Knut's story a very happy ending indeed.